think it's important that we talk about some of the things that we've tried, on our healing journey before we ever got to a lot of the things that actually helped us. Because, like most people with chronic Lyme, we have gone down all of the rabbit holes that you have gone down, and tried all of the traditional Western medicine treatments
Right.
with limited success. We have tried all of the Eastern medicine treatments, and I think it's important to just chat about that, like honestly, candidly, and talk about where we have been and where we're at now, but also share the journey and like what we've gone through. So, like, what are some of the things that you tried, Josh,
Bro,
in your journey? Yeah.
all the things, all
Yeah.
there's no one that's going to watch this that's going to be like, well, these dudes didn't try this. So
Yeah.
in almost 18 years of battling with chronic Lyme, um, I went bankrupt, dude. I lost my house,
Yeah.
cars, everything, career, on treatment, on spending it on these doctors that, oh, okay, you got to put down a $3,000 deposit. And then,
Yeah.
these Lyme literate doctors that had promised me they were going to give me my life back. And I put my life and my hope and
Mm.
my financial well-being in their hands. And I only ended up getting more sick. And what I realized that with all, not just Lyme, but with all chronic illnesses, there's no doctors out there that are consistently getting patients better. And that's a hard
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
We all have doctors that we might like, and there are some that get better, but I believe that there's also other variables that come into play. But
Hmm.
there is no doctor out there that is consistently treating Lyme or chronic illness patients that's getting them better than 45-50% of the
I
time.
don't
I
even know. That's even, dude.
yeah,
That even seems high.
yeah,
Like, you're
great
good.
talk.
Yeah.
People in the comments that argue, but I literally, I was interviewing people and trying to find things. So I did
Yeah.
everything. I did the IV antibiotics. I had a PIC
Yeah.
line. I did oral antibiotics for years and years and years. And, hyperbaric oxygen, both soft and hard chambers, B venom therapy. Yes, I did it long enough and I just never saw any,
Hmm.
effects. IV ozone, Myers cocktails, all these different things. And
Yeah.
what I realized is when I went to these holistic or integrative doctors, and I'm thankful because I think that there are some roles that they play. But for chronic illness, guys, I just never, I did all the diet fads, I
Yeah.
changed all that. Um, and I'd mentioned this before, but you see these memes that go around that talk about shoving kale up your butt and doing yoga and meditating and changing your diet. That that's all supposed to work and everybody, but honestly, doing a lot of that stuff, minus the shoving kale up my butt, has
Yeah.
had a huge impact. And here's the
Yeah.
problem: is most people aren't consistent. And I tried all these different treatments, and I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen hundreds of doctors over the 17 and 18 years, and not Dr. Dave Stewart. I will give a shout out to him. He helped me with Cowden protocol, which I did see some limited success with that. But he told me, he's like, you have to address your nervous system, and that
Yeah.
was one of the most important things for me when I realized that. And when a doctor tells you that you are the medicine, that's you're on the right path. And the unfortunate part is as chronic illness patients, as Lyme patients, we go to all these doctors and we put all our hope in our hands, not realizing the work that we have to do.
Yeah.
And what I realized is when I tried these treatments and I went to these doctors that, oh, you're not getting better because of antibiotics. Well, the Lyme should be gone by now. Now we're going to start looking at mold, and we're going to do some mold panels,
Yeah.
more for $5,000 labs, and now you need to get your house tested. And now I'm obsessed over mold. And I did have a mold exposure that was
Yep.
legit, but it only made the fear even more
Yeah.
pronounced, further dysregulating my nervous system. And then I went down the heavy metal rabbit holes and getting
Yeah.
amalgams
I've
from,
gone down. Yep. I did that as well.
there's 10 grand right there. And,
Yep.
I've seen a biological dentist, and next
Yep.
thing you know, I'm just breaking down and I'm crying. I'm like, I have no more money for
Yeah.
treatment. What can I do? So what I started to do, Joe, is, and this is right before me and you really
Yeah.
started to connect, is I've been really big in the Lyme community. I ran a large national nonprofit, the biggest Lyme protests to date. I was a part of pushing those out, running them, and protesting the IDSA. And I really got to see through a lens firsthand the chronic illness community and the Lyme community. And as I was super involved, I kind of removed myself, and I noticed that there were people that were getting better and that were
Yeah.
exiting the community, and they weren't really talking about it. So what I
Hmm.
started to do was talk to the people that were getting better, and I noticed three common threads in all those people. It wasn't the
Yeah.
doctor that they saw.
Yeah. Exactly.
It, it was never some specific treatment. None of those things aligned. They addressed their nervous system. All right. They believed that their body was capable of healing itself. There was always a radical diet change.
Yeah.
Generally, anti-inflammatory diet. They cut out eating crap and they
Yeah.
stayed. They didn't cheat. And the other part is they began to live their life as though, because when we get sick, we stop living our lives. We stop training.
Yeah.
And they started doing that. They lived their lives and they began to move their body again. And was
Yeah.
this an instantaneous fix or cure? No. But once I
Yeah.
really understood the science, here's the thing, the science behind nervous system regulation,
Yeah. Yeah.
how dysregulation plays a role in us getting chronically sick. I was like, whoa, this is astounding. And it was person after person after person. And the thing that they always told me is like, they're like, dude, you have to be consistent. It's not going to work in a month. It's not a
Yeah.
quick fix pill. And, like I said, I tried all the treatments. My life was from the couch to the bed, from the bed to the couch, and I'm still healing. I haven't gotten completely better, but the progress that I've made is absolutely doing this. And you'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on supplements over the years. Like I was
Yeah.
spending
Yeah.
literally $400 a month just on supplements, and they weren't.
Yeah. I was the same way. Yeah.
It's crazy. So we want to let you guys know that there is hope out there, obviously, but
Yeah.
in the beginning, we feel like we do chase the rabbit hole of doing all these things because
Yeah.
doctors are told to make us better, and that was just not my case. I don't know what yours was like, Joe.
Yeah, yeah, I went down all the same rabbit holes. I when I first got sick, I did, all of the antibiotics. I tried oral antibiotics, I did IV antibiotics. Then I
Did
went
you use
to
Meprin by chance?
did I do what?
Meprin?
Yeah, man, I hated that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it made me like suicidal as well. That's the other problem with some of the traditional means, and they cause all sorts of issues with your psychology, your gut brain connection, all of this. They cause so many issues, yet I believed it. I heard many people that were like, you got to do long-term antibiotics, you got to do IV antibiotics. Then it was like, no, you got to address candida and mold and these other things, and then it was, oh, you still have heavy metals in your mouth, you got to get those removed. Yeah, and then it was like, oh, you have these retroviruses active, so now you got to take antivirals. And then it was, the MTHFR genes. I don't know if
Yes.
you went down those that path. It was
And
like,
I had gene mutation and all
yeah,
that.
I had them all too. Yeah, and I tried all the crazy supplements for freaking months on end with no positive results. And then it
Methylation
was,
and
yeah, exactly. It was all of these sort of things, and then it was like, all right, let me try IV ozone, which did have some benefits to it, honestly, but it was only when I was on it. And then it was,
so
let me,
expensive too.
huh?
It's how much were you paying for a session?
Oh, it
Mine was
was
like
expensive. Yeah, mine was like 100 and some per session. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, so like I went down all these rabbit holes, and I think that's the important thing that we need to talk about is that when you become chronically ill, you become desperate, and you start going down these rabbit holes for several different reasons. There are doctors, there are people peddling supplements and things like that promise like, oh, it's going to heal your gut or it's going to help your chronic illness, and
yeah,
some of these people are not being truthful in that way. We can get down the path of getting commission and kickbacks from these things, which paying for they can pay for reviews, all of this sort of stuff, and so it can lead people in so many different directions. Like we've gone down it, other people go down it. Just know that if you've done this, there is a way out eventually to actually heal your body. um, but it takes some work, and some people get caught down these rabbit holes and they go endlessly for years. I got to
mhm,
figure this out, I got to figure that, I got to
right,
get out of this place, there may be mold here, there. And this is something that we talk about a lot, is letting go of that fear response and that stress response when you're trying to heal. um, my story is a little bit different than Josh's, is that I actually healed about after 5 years of having chronic illness, chronic Lyme. I actually healed and went back on to sort of live my life and become an art director and designer and get all that sort of stuff.
right.
And then I relapsed when I got COVID, and then it was like now going back through all of the same stuff that I healed. And I think it's important to kind of talk about this because now with chronic Lyme, chronic illness, there's tons of information out there on nervous system work, neuroplasticity,
Right.
and things like that. But I think it kind of also can lend itself into being a rabbit hole as well. Like I know that there's something
Absolutely.
that we see even with people that we work with that go down these different programs, and they're on the right path. That's the one thing I want to say. Like the nervous system work, the neuroplasticity work, the mind body healing work is the right path, but it can also lead down another rabbit hole which can hinder healing. So I don't
Sure.
know. I think it's important to even talk about that in a way because there's a lot of different programs out there, and not to say any of them are bad. Like some of them can be really really helpful.
Yeah. I
But
think it's
during
important to note that people
yeah
can still, like you said, they're on the right path.
yeah
But when it becomes overcomplicated, I
yeah
think we would
yeah
see so much more people getting better through nervous system regulation if it wasn't so complex.
yeah, and it
And it
doesn't
doesn't.
have to be.
Right. Right.
It does
Yeah.
not have to be. That's so. This is where I think it's important to talk about this stuff because healing is changing a lot. Some people are still stuck in the rabbit holes of traditional and Western and Eastern medicine,
Mhm.
and there's a time and a place for all of that. You know what I mean? Like if you get an acute infection, Lyme disease, definitely take antibiotics. Like if you have some type of issue that can be resolved with a short course of something, sure, take it. Use the precautions. And then even when it comes to supplements and alternative medicine, it can be a nice complementary treatment or help to what you're doing with the mind body work, but
Yeah.
really that's all it really can be, at least in our experiences and what we've seen with ourselves and with other people. But the mind body stuff has become so complex. Now there's all of these programs, and then there's coaches, and then there's all these different ways, top down, bottom up
Bottom
approaches.
up. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you
And
don't need that.
yeah, you don't. You really don't. I think less is more when it comes to actually healing through
Yeah.
mind body stuff. That doesn't mean, we
I
talk about consistency and repetition, with the healing work and like what is that, and a lot of
Yeah.
people think, oh, that means I have to forcefully, sort of heal through doing. I got to go see this practitioner, and then I got to go, see this person who does somatics, and then I got to do inner child work and then trauma work, and it's like
Yeah.
we don't just subscribe to that sort of
Yeah.
way.
Next thing you know, you've gone down, like
Yeah,
you said, more rabbit holes. And
yeah,
the crazy part of this is it is actually in context. What you need to do is easy, but the work is very hard, and that's why
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of the people fall off. And Joe and I are two just regular dudes that got really sick, and
yeah,
our lives were changed, and we call it like it is. And
yeah.
we
I,
talk about how
I
difficult. Go ahead.
I think it's important to also talk about how sick we were. You brought that up, like, because
Yeah,
like some people
yeah,
don't really, they
yeah.
think, oh, they had a mild, like I'm different. I'm different because my case is so complex.
No.
No, I think it's important we talk about
Yeah,
how
for
sick
sure.
we were.
For
Right?
sure. So
Yeah,
any of you guys can go search my name in any of the Lyme groups,
yeah,
chronic illness groups, and anxiety groups, and
yeah,
agoraphobia groups, and you'll see posts from me probably 8, 10 years ago, like crying
yeah,
out for help, like, "Hey, look, I feel like I'm dying,"
yeah,
and being fully transparent. This is tough. Is I tried
yeah,
to take my life because I was so sick, and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's been such a long journey, and
Mhm.
when you're in and out of the hospital and you're not getting the answers that you need, and
Yeah,
you're going from doctor to doctor, and you've exhausted every single resource and
yeah,
every single penny that you have, and you're not feeling any better, and
mhm,
emotional talking about this point, and there's no hope.
yeah,
There's no hope because you don't see really anybody else getting consistently better in these communities, and they become echo chambers and cesspools
yeah,
for just misery
yep,
and commiserating on symptoms and stuff like that, which
mhm,
might feel good in the moment, but I think I found that it actually had a
mhm.
more negative impact because a lot of these people in these communities are nasty. They want to go for your throat instead of
Yeah,
coming to
yeah,
trying to help. And we see that all the time. but I was very sick. I
Yeah.
got sick in 2006. I had a great job working for the federal government as a senior engineer.
Yeah.
I made great money. I had a house in Ashburn, Virginia, which at the time, like you'd arrived, like that was the place to live,
Yeah.
metro area, and had two beautiful cars. And not that any of that matters now because my eyes have completely opened to what
Yeah.
life is truly about. And my life came crashing down. Like I remember my life had just came to a halt and
Mhm.
everything stopped. And I was trying to go to work. I was puking in the parking lot, like
Yeah.
just crawling out of my skin. It felt
Mhm.
24/7. I was in a constant state of derealization,
Yeah.
depersonalization. I feel like I licked my fingers and stuck them in an electrical socket and I couldn't get it out. And
Yeah.
I was begging for people to understand what was going on for me. And I
Yeah.
went from doctor to doctor to hospital to hospital. My heart's racing. All this stuff's going on. You're fine. It's all in your head. And what I didn't realize is a lot of it was, and not in the sense that it was all psychological, but there is a component of that that has to be
Yeah.
addressed because
A
there is a
protective
traumatic
fear.
experience
Yeah.
that happens when you get sick and your body stays in that state of alert. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that. And I wish I had the knowledge that
I
Joe and I have
didn't
now, and it would have saved my life. But I mean, I eventually got to the point where I could no longer work. And at 28 years old, I had medically retired from my career that I'd worked so
either.
hard to go through, and I couldn't get out of bed. I developed agoraphobia. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a 24/7 dream world. My heart was racing. I had palpitations, air hunger.
Yeah.
I
The
was taking
pots
my
and
blood
stuff.
pressure all the time. Yeah, POTS, post orthopedic tachycardia syndrome, everything that you could label, but the doctor still could not find a diagnosis of what
Yeah.
was wrong with me. They gave me all the anxiety medications and all the
Yeah.
depression medications, and I trusted doctors, so I took all of them, and I had all these side effects and symptoms and
Yeah.
all these different things going on, and my world was crashing down right in front of me, and I didn't know what to do. My family didn't believe me. It was destroying my marriage and my relationship. And I was just so sick, and all I could
Yeah.
do was curl up on the couch all day. I couldn't play Xbox. I couldn't watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Life had stopped, and this just went on for years and years and years. And
Yeah.
eventually, I went through IGeneX and I got a positive test, but that didn't mean anything. That's when things got worse because I started hammering my body with
Mhm.
all these heavy pharmaceuticals, and I got more and more sick. And next thing you know, bloated, and my tongue is white, and I'm
Yeah.
feeling worse. And eventually, I get to a point where I'm in a wheelchair. I developed neuropathy from the waist down, and I couldn't
Yeah.
feel anything. And
Right.
doctors just didn't have an answer for me. So when people say, "Hey, these guys don't know what they're talking about," I
Yeah.
was
Exactly. Yeah.
sickest of the sick. I was in my wheelchair with an IV pole that was hanging from it and a PICC line going into my arm, and I was
Yeah.
down like this. And I remember the first time that I went into public after not going into public for 2 years. I'm in a wheelchair. My hoodie's over my head like this. I had sunglasses on all the time like this because
Yeah.
my eyes were so sensitive to the light. And I'm in a wheelchair, and I wanted to go in the mall because I hadn't seen anybody in so long, and I hadn't been in public
Mhm.
because I just felt so sick. And I saw, this person open the door, and I get in there, and everything was just so overwhelming, and I had to go
Yeah.
back in the car. And dude, this lasted for years and
Yeah. It's like
years and years.
perpetual state of that,
And I
for
stayed in
years.
these
Yeah.
cycles because every new doctor, I was like, all
Yeah.
right, here's another 5 grand and a hope that things are going to get better. And it
Mhm.
never got better. So that's how sick I was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've made progress, but I still have my days, but I'm thankful because I'm no longer where I was and I'm still
Yeah.
progressing. But
Yeah.
Joe, you want to share a little bit about where you're
Yeah,
at?
yeah, because we have very similar stories. It's kind of crazy how me and Josh sort of came together and like started the Healing Dudes. But our stories are very similar. We actually connected back in, I think it was probably like 2006, 7, 8, something like that. I don't know, remember exactly, but we had a lot of the same symptoms. I'd gotten sick back in 2005, had to drop out of college, moved back in with my mom, all of the same stuff, tons of neurological stuff, the depersonalization, derealization, numbness, tingling, twitches all over my body, terrible fatigue, anxiety, depression, all of that sort of stuff. It developed into basically bedridden for many years, where I just go from bed to couch, bed to couch. Became agoraphobic in a lot of ways, like Josh said. I didn't really leave the house for months on end at a time. When I did, it was to go to doctor's appointments. At and that's about
You had to
it.
depend on your mom a lot too, right? You couldn't
Yeah, I
like
did
drive.
depend on my mom to like drive me places, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it was years perpetual of just staying sick. A little bit better and then back down worse. And it
Yeah.
was similar to that. Like I couldn't watch TV at times, or even just do anything. I would just exist, like sit
Did you have
there.
any enjoyment at all in life, or was it just
No,
complete?
no. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I developed really, really bad like anxiety, depression, but also anhedonia, which is like I don't for people that have dealt with it, it is one of we talk about depersonalization, derealization being a terrible symptom. Anhedonia is just up there with that because it's like literally you cannot feel any emotion at all. No positive emotion. It doesn't matter. It just feels like you're just existing in this world. So I dealt with that. I healed myself from that. As well. And eventually all this got better. And I didn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't through pharmaceuticals. I tried pharmaceutical stuff like some of the benzos and even antidepressants, but they actually made things worse for me. So I really couldn't do it. Occasionally, I would like take a benzo, when I was dealing with like panic attacks or whatever, but I never really went down too much down that path. And I healed myself completely from all of this after many many years of trying all the traditional sort of stuff. I think it's important to kind of talk about you had talked about what led you down the path of healing. I
Yeah.
kind of I kind of want to talk about my journey. So because I think this is where we can kind of segue into sort of the mind body stuff, the nervous system stuff. Back in probably 2008 is when I kind of first stumbled on this. Back then, there was no such thing as nervous system healing. Well, like there wasn't. There
There
was no
wasn't
programs.
there wasn't all these programs.
DNRS, yeah, it was not there. Like there was not really doctors talking about it. But what's kind of funny is I had a friend recommend I watch watch the movie The Secret, the like law of attraction manifestation movie, and Joe Dispenza's in that movie. He's in there, and he's talking about healing himself from his back injury, and that was like the first time I was like, whoa, you can like heal yourself through some of this like weird woo woo spiritual law of attraction stuff. Although it didn't put the picture together for me at that time, it made me start questioning and start thinking and start realizing, yeah, like I'm responsible for some of this chronic illness through stress, through my thoughts, through my daily actions. And this is when I was like bedridden, not leaving the house. So I started going down that path, and then I started reading stories and books like psychology books, and then stories of people who healed from like chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme and MS and these other things. But there was no tangible scientific like this is how I healed. It was there was this one story. I remember this one guy, and I talk about it, here and there. A dude dealing with severe chronic fatigue syndrome, like ME, like encephalitis, whatever. All of the same symptoms that we deal with, Josh, and all that stuff. He didn't necessarily have Lyme disease, although as we know, a lot of
Yeah.
Lyme co-infections are very kind of work
Yeah.
simultaneously with like chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, all that sort of stuff. Anyways, in this story, it was a long story that I found on like a board, just like a healing board. The dude was talking about, basically living his life on his own terms and not letting his chronic illness, you know, control his life.
Yeah.
And in his story, he talked about him, just taking one step in front of the other and getting back into living. And in the middle of that, he was doing, things like meditation and breathing exercises and, getting himself out of the state of stress. This dude went from bedridden, like severely sick, and I think at the end of the story, it was like he was like he climbed like Mount Everest or something like that, and
That's
it was
amazing.
like it
Yeah.
was yeah he was like
Right.
He went from bedridden to like marathon runner, climbing like Everest after many years of like bedridden. And I read this and I was like, wow, man, there's something to this. And this is when I started going down that path of like, all right, I'm going to start implementing these things daily, movement, meditation, some of the like, people talk about it in prayer, but, for me, it was more meditation and affirmations and getting out of stress and noticing where I'm kind of focusing my energy and attention. Like if I'm like focusing on my illness and how bad I feel, like diverting that attention to something positive, whether it's a hobby or
Mm.
whether it's just practicing radical acceptance. At the same time, I started reading these books, on acceptance and commitment therapy, on just even like things like from like Eckhart Tolle, like A New Earth and like the Power of Now and these things. And I kind of combined a lot of these different things before there was a program. And then that's when it led me down this path of like healing. And I started seeing it really working. Started getting a part-time job, went back to school a couple times a week, even while I was symptomatic still, but I was on that path. And then
Right.
my body healed over the course of years, to the point where I was in remission from Lyme, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what led me down this path. And then me and you reconnected, so I think
Yeah.
it's
And
yeah,
that's where I became kind of envious of Joe
yeah,
because
yeah,
this guy get his life back and I'm still struggling. And for me, I kind of stumbled along this path a little bit different. Joe tends
yeah,
to be a little bit more on the spiritual side where,
yeah,
I practice faith. I'm a Christian. But what's crazy is a lot of these ancient texts all kind of point to this. The body was designed to heal
yeah,
itself. Like you get a
yeah,
cold, what is the immune system comes in, it does its job. Yeah, I believe there's stealth pathogens and stuff like that, but I also believe that eating these terrible diets and the stress
yeah,
of modern society,
mhm,
all these different things, are not factors that we were designed to be under. I think as a modern society, we've put these on ourselves. And what I realized is that as I'm talking to these people, and here's the crazy part is I know that Dr. Joe Dispenza gets a lot of slack for being some weird outlandish guy, but there's so much science, and
yeah,
that's what I'm big on is the science behind this, and I think that that's become the problem is a lot of these different programs overcomplicate it to make it kind of their own
yeah,
brand. We have to talk about this way and that way, and in all reality, that's why we hate the term neuroplasticity because that just overcomplicates the whole
yeah,
thing. You regulate your nervous system, you begin to live your life, and you watch as your life gets better. And it is
yeah,
that simple
yeah,
because as I'm going on here, a lot of what we're dealing with is fear based. All right.
yeah,
And follow
yeah,
me. If you have a chronic illness, don't get so upset and turn off this episode. No, follow me on this. When
yeah,
you're
yeah,
sick, what are you inundated with? You're consumed by fear. You're
hmm,
absolutely consumed by fear. I'm going to die from this, or I need to research this. And you wake up first thing in the morning and you're symptomatic, and it's fear, 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 fear. You're not waking up
worried
grateful.
about your symptoms and how
Yeah,
bad you're
yeah,
gonna feel that day and all that. Yeah,
exactly. So throughout the day, I developed a fear cycle. I would wake up, I would take my blood pressure, I'd put an oximeter on my finger, I'd check my
yeah,
blood sugar, I would do all these things. I was mindful of what I ate. I'm tracking my bowel movements. Everything that I did was based in fear. And nothing was done from a place of love or anything like that. It was just
yeah,
fear, 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 year after year after year after year. And what do you think this does to your body? So in simple terms, we'll look at it this. Back in the day before cardiologists would just throw a ton of different medications at you, the first thing that they would ask you, what is your diet like and what does your stress look like? Now we
yeah,
need to alleviate stress and we need to clean up your diet. Why is that? Because stress and fear dump cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. And when it's constant, and even if it's happening subconsciously, when this is constant, your immune system's not working, your digestive tract's not working,
yeah,
all the other systems that were intelligently designed and put into our body are not functioning optimally, and we're not in the state of homeostasis where our body needs to be.
yeah,
So what I realized is when that doctor had told me that you have to address your nervous system. What does that mean? Well, if I'm in a constant state of fear, my nervous system's a wreck. I am
mm,
constantly stressed. My body's not fighting whatever pathogens in there or whatever opportunistic virus that I've got. No, it's
yeah,
worried about making sure that I stay safe from these monsters that I'm creating in my head,
yeah, yeah,
right? So as I began to kind of like explore this in there, and I purchased DNRS, and I think that there's some great stuff in there. I didn't like hopping along on stop pops or spots on the floor and yelling stop, 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 stop. But I do believe that people have gotten better because the basic point of reference on what you need to do is there, and then it's overcomplicated,
Yeah.
and there's not community, and we'll get into that in a second. But for me, what I realized is I was kind of being called back to my faith. And biblically, there's a passage or there's a word that's used more than anything: do not fear. Fear
Yeah.
will constantly disrupt your life. Now, am I saying that fear is a large reason why you're sick? Yes, I am. And you can
Yeah, it's true.
we've now talked to hundreds of people and helped a lot of people get better. And as you're walking through life, you're not generally full of fear. Maybe in modern society, a lot of people are because
Yeah.
anxiety is on the rise, but you're going through. And when you get sick, I talk about this all the time. You hit a wall and now you're fearful of everything. Did I choose the right doctor? Will this medication and we all have that one reaction. I think we've
Yeah.
all had a reaction to a medication or a food. And next
Yeah.
thing you know, we're reacting to everything because it's based on fear. And you can actually, and this is maybe something for another podcast,
Yeah, I
but
think so.
you can
But
actually
yeah.
make yourself react.
Placebo and nocebo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the nocebo effect,
Yeah.
strictly based on fear. Now,
Yeah.
for those that are skeptical, I would encourage you to continue to listen. So when we're in that constant, perpetual state of fear, that is absolutely taxing to our body. Not only if you didn't have a chronic illness, that's fine. You're cutting years off your life by living in that state. So
Mhm.
what do we do? And Joe and I are going to get into all that. As I began to surrender, as I began to let go of trying to control everything and
Yeah.
waking up in fear and switching to gratitude and following,
Yeah.
like I said, it's in spiritual text, it's in biblical text. The roadmap to get better has always been there. There's no innovative program that came
Yeah,
out and said,
exactly.
"Hey, look, I've now found the answer." The answer has been there, but there's not a lot of money in the answer because it's not a
No.
pharmaceutical drug that I can put in a thing. So why is it not widely broadcasted? You can go out and you talk to any doctor and say, "Hey, look, can I get better if I stay in a constant state of stress and fear?" And if he's worth any weight in gold, he's going to tell you absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, Joe has his master's in nutrition, and we
Yeah.
talk about the gut brain connection a lot. And when we're in a constant state of fear, we're disrupting our gut. You can actually
Mhm.
make yourself develop. Think about this, and this is kind of
No.
funny, and maybe some of you guys will think this is disgusting. When you're stressed out, when you're fearful, how many of you guys have had to go to the bathroom with diarrhea? Like
Yeah.
literally, it has that physiological effect on the body. So, what do you think happens when we're stuck in that state of fear
Yeah.
constantly? And now you have a virus in your body, and now you're fighting against yourself. And when we're told that we are the medicine or that we have some healing to do, we're like, I don't like that. I want to take the pill. I want to take the medicine and I want to get rid of it. And then it's like, okay, well, I do have this fear and anxiety. Let me take Paxil. Let me take Zoloft. Let me take Effexor. Let me take all these different things. And maybe they helped you. But why is there a reason that 38 to 40% of the time, these psychiatric medications are no better than placebo, than a
Yeah.
sugar pill? Right. So that tells me that your mind has the ability to help you heal through this process. And this
Mhm.
isn't woo woo. This isn't super spiritual stuff. This is science, guys. And Joe and I came across it through different avenues, but it
Yeah.
absolutely works. And when I veer off the path from this, I start to feel sick and fear gives way. But here's what we do, guys. Here's what we've been doing. This is what's been
Yeah.
so astounding is we replace that fear with positive emotion. We then begin to practice gratitude. Oh, well, you're telling me if I practice gratitude, I'm going to get better. No, here's what you need to do. Writing down in a gratitude journal every day is not going to change your life, but you begin to feel gratitude in
Yeah.
place of fear, and you begin to habitually change your habits, rituals, and routines. Instead of waking up and being in fear every day, you're waking up grateful to be alive. You're grateful
Yeah.
for your friendships. You're grateful to have a roof over your house, and you feel that. So when you wake up in the morning, you're no longer waking up, oh my gosh, let me check my heart rate. Why is my breathing weird? All this. No, you're waking up grateful to be alive. And
Yeah.
that's just one small part of this,
Yeah, that's
guys.
one smart, but I think it's important to talk about gratitude
Yeah.
as well because people are going to say, I'm sick. How am I supposed to be grateful? How am I supposed to practice gratitude? And this is the exact thing that is needed and required. And it's not the only thing. Like Josh said, it's one piece of the healing journey. But I do want to talk about this before we go on because how do you become grateful when you're chronically ill? How do you become grateful? I think it's a really, really important question. Everyone asks. I'm sick, I'm struggling, I can't get out of bed, I feel like shit, my symptoms are, how am I going to be fucking grateful? Or, and how, I shouldn't have said that, but how am I supposed to, how am I supposed to feel this gratitude when I
Right.
feel like crap? Well, here's the deal, guys. It is important, but the gratitude doesn't come from a place of what you don't have. It comes from a place of what you have. And
Mm.
when you are sick, you have to find gratitude for the things that you currently have. One of the things that I had to do, and that I know Josh had to do, and what we do every day, regardless of how we feel, you can be grateful for things in your life. Josh has kids, a family. Me, I have a roof over my head. I live in a beautiful place. Even if you're sick and you can't leave the house, well, can you see? Okay, be grateful that you can see. Do you have
Yeah.
food on the table? Man, be grateful that you have food on the table. These are the things. It's like it comes down to sometimes basic needs and recognizing that there are things to be grateful for, and then actually allowing yourself to feel that gratitude. So everyone can feel it,
Yeah.
regardless of what your situation is. It's a shift in perspective, and it
Yeah.
takes work.
If
So
you're
yeah, but
breathing, be thankful for.
yeah, there's always things to be thankful for. It doesn't mean that you're not struggling. It's a
Mhm.
shift in perspective and a story that we tell ourselves that needs to change in order to actually heal. This is one aspect of it,
Yeah,
guys. So
absolutely.
yeah,
And I think we talked about a lot about what doesn't work, and we've kind of slowly touched on nervous system regulation. And I think we're just going to kill the term neuroplasticity, bro. Just shoot it dead because there's so many people
yeah,
that are using it, guys. But Joe and I have seen significant difference in our own lives, and it's been one of the most beautiful things to come alongside people and watch them heal and get their life back.
yeah.
And what we'll tell you is this journey isn't easy, and it's not going
No,
to be for everybody. Can it help everybody heal? Absolutely, but it's going to be
absolutely.
almost just as difficult as when you got sick. But when
Yeah,
we begin to face these fears and we address these things and we begin to live life as though we're healed, things do shift. Now, is that is magical pixie dust going to fall from the sky and you're going to get better? No,
mhm,
it's about regulating the nervous system and getting that cortisol and adrenaline to stop constantly pumping in. It's stop giving way to the fears and to begin facing them. And
yeah,
yes, there is trauma that's involved. We've all been sick, but once we begin to face fears, and there's all these deep things that are so interlaced with trauma. But here's the thing: you're holding on to glass.
yeah,
Eventually,
exactly.
and life is very short. We can sit and we can talk about, I need 6 years of therapy and all these different medications and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I'm now healing from a medication that damaged me significantly while I'm on this. And I would tell you that there is no better healer for your body than your body. All
yeah,
right. And I
agree.
didn't realize that to be true. And if someone were to come to me and have talked to me with this type of information, 8, 10 years ago when I was said, you're absolutely crazy. And that's
Yeah,
why we find it important to show the science. And Joe and I actually have a really big surprise for people coming through. We're going to have a 40-year psychologist come on and kind of talk with us about, how the brain works and
yeah,
how all of this all ties in. So it's not just two random dudes that
yeah,
are healing talking about it. You're now going to get to see the science behind it. And we're excited to be able to deliver that to you guys.
yeah,
And when Joe and I started on this journey, it was never to get rich. It was ultimately to help people. We've helped so many
mhm,
people for free.
mhm,
And we talked about sharing our journey live, and we have the good, the bad as we go through fears.
yeah,
As I've been down, Joe and I have done classes where we're in bed sick, and we've also showed the highest of the highs, and it's been
yeah,
incredible. And one of our things that we want to share on this channel is just being authentic with you guys and just letting
yeah,
you guys know that we're two regular dudes that aren't going to switch up. We're always going to feed you the no BS approach of what's going on,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we
That's why
try
we
to
have a
help.
no BS healing guide.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we want to help people heal. So the last part of this is what works, what truly works.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we've talked about the fear component. We've talked about the gratitude component. And Joe, like I said, has his master's in nutrition. And I
yeah,
think that it's super important that we do address the diet part because I thought that I was eating clean. And I think for the most part I
yeah,
was. But just because you're eating clean and organic foods doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating the diet that's going to help you
yeah,
heal because there's still a lot of foods that are inflammatory. And it's not to set more fear towards what you should eat, but eating for many of us, we lose a lot of foods, and there's mast cell reactions. And I
Mhm.
forgot that that was a whole part of my journey and
Yeah,
another rabbit
same,
hole that I went
same.
on. And ultimately, guys, your food is going to either help heal you or it's going to help make you sick. Joe says that
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
And I think Joe's going to talk a little bit about
No,
diet.
yeah. I forgot to tell you. So I'm going to create a no BS gut health guide, and I'm actually starting. It's going to be part of what we offer as well here in the near future, because there's a lot of information that comes in through social media, through doctors, through even nutritionists and dietitians. Will sometimes give you the wrong information here, and the one thing is I did go and get my master's in nutrition after I'd healed while I was working as an art director. And I focused a lot on the gut brain connection, and because I saw how much it played a part in my healing.
Right.
Yes, I tried all the fad diets many years ago when I was very very sick, but I found a more simplified diet was the best thing. Like not being so restrictive, not being so crazily overly fearful of foods, but practicing an anti-inflammatory diet and sometimes modifying that to more of a low FODMAP type of anti-inflammatory diet when you're dealing with gut dysbiosis and leaky gut, as well as including some gut healing foods like bone broth and green juices and things that high in collagen and stuff like that that can really help heal the gut. But the one thing that I noticed on my journey, whenever my gut was more compromised, my mental health was more of an issue. And I know Josh probably has a similar
100.
correlation with that. And we see it all the time. Like if I work with people and they're dealing with like SIBO or like, bad like leaky gut, it's almost just as likely that they're going to be dealing with more anxiety, depression, OCD, like PTSD type stuff, and nervous system dysregulation. When in conjunction with the nervous system work, the mind body stuff, you also heal the gut at the same time. It has like a compounding effect. um, I've noticed when my gut is healthy, like my anxiety, depression, all of that sort of stuff is way better, if not non-existent, aside from just situational stuff. And I
Hey,
think that
Joe,
that's yeah.
as you dive in, and I don't mean to interrupt
Yeah.
you, I
Oh,
think this is important. There's a new fad that's been out. I mean, it was out when we are there,
yeah.
but I'm curious if you could give us some insight, like on parasite cleanses, as we're talking about the gut.
Yeah.
Do people need to constantly do parasite
Yeah.
cleanses?
No, no. Honestly, the one realization that I've had, whether it's been with Lyme, parasites, all of that sort of stuff, and I've tried it all, guys, in the past, is you're never gonna kill everything out of your body. You're not going to. We are, as gross as this may sound, guys. We are factory bacteria, parasite, yeast factories in our body, and I don't mean that to say like we're all just walking terrible microbes, but no, our bodies they're built to work all together with you know, bacteria. Like there's trillions of bacteria in your body at all times, including good and bad. There are, the idea is to build up the good bacteria so that it kind of cancels out the bad, not to kill it. It just kind of suppresses it. The same thing with like parasite stuff. I've tried the parasite cleanses, didn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, my gut healed when it was a more simplified approach. I just don't think that you're ever gonna the microbes in our body also have a way of like evading stuff. So yeah, you may kill some stuff for a short time, and then it just evades it. It hides in biofilm and then you're down another rabbit hole where you gotta take biofilm. And I just don't believe that. You know, it's about getting the body back in homeostasis. And then once it's in homeostasis, the body naturally sort of suppresses the bad bacteria, parasites, and maybe even naturally detoxes it in a way. I'm not really sure, but the detox pathways turn back on, and all of that sort of stuff happens naturally, when you just practice a gentle approach. So I don't see that that's a something that has to be done, or really even is something that should be done necessarily. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, dude, like
Yeah.
supplements are great and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but I believe that everything that we need to
Yeah.
heal in the diet that we have and everything that's right inside
Yeah.
here, like there's
Yep.
there obviously there's situations where you might, have something that you need to take an antiviral, like you said earlier on. But
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a chronic situation, I feel like the
yeah,
healing that you need to do is in the food that you eat and everything that you can physically do with your body. That it's
yeah.
not, there's no miracle supplement, there's no
Mhm.
amazing antibiotic, there
Nope.
is no parasite cleanse, there's no miracle probiotic. I mean, and I think probiotic, I started taking one, but none of
Yeah,
these things are going to be the answer you're looking for. When you
yeah,
continue to look outside your body and you don't
yeah,
look, you're going to keep chasing your tail. When you realize, all right, hey, look, my body is an incredibly designed radical healing machine,
yeah,
and you get out of the way and you believe that it can do it. Because if you tell yourself I can't heal, guess what? Your body's not going to heal.
yeah.
You can still, like, if you break a bone, think about it, how crazy. You break a bone, what does it do? It heals.
Just
You get cut, what does it do? It heals. So if it's doing that on the outside, can you imagine what it can do on the inside when we get
yeah,
out of the way and we give it the proper tools through everything that we talked about, and not medication but food? It does its job, guys. And,
yeah,
obviously we're dealing with, and we all know it's questionable about where Lyme came from and all these lab created diseases and
yeah,
stuff like that. But I still believe that the body is able to at
yeah.
least get at bay to where we can start living a normal life again. And it does take
Yeah.
time, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible.
Exactly. And this goes into the things like modern society where we're stuck in chronic stress, and like even the standard American diet, which has nothing but processed chemicals and all that sort of stuff. When you get out of that stress loop, when you kind of eat a whole food, organic, very nutrient dense diet,
Yeah.
and you practice the nervous system tools, the body just naturally heals. We just have to almost get out of the way because we've done so
Right.
much bad things in our lives.
Absolutely.
And not to say that you're ever going to completely get rid of stress, but the chronic, underlying prolonged stress is part of the issue that needs to be resolved or worked through as you heal, to overcome that sort of stuff. And I think we mentioned it in passing, probably on a future podcast. We should talk about the placebo and nocebo,
Absolutely.
in depth, because that could be an entire hour, or
That's,
even,
we
you
could, we
know,
could, we could dive in deep. And I think kind of the
yeah,
last part of this,
yeah,
um, is, we've talked about diet, we've talked about our mindset, but what happens in modern society now, it's not just our diet, it's our lack of movement.
yeah,
Uh, in society, before we even get sick, a lot of people just aren't moving their body the way that they
yeah,
need to in order for it to stay healthy. And they're like, oh, these idiots are going to tell me to go take a walk and it's going to make me feel better. I mean, with time, it
yeah,
actually will,
yeah.
because
It actually will.
a lot of people with chronic illness, and I was one of those. If I did 2,000 steps in a day, it was a good day. Now I anywhere from 12 to 15,000 steps is what I do on a regular, and my body feels better because of it.
Yeah,
Do I have rough days? Absolutely, absolutely. They're still there. But what happens when we stop moving, we become stagnant. Not only are we putting our body at higher risk for mortality,
yeah,
blood clots, all these different things. Oh, well, I can't move. I'm so weak. Well, we have to have a starting point. And we tell this in our class all the time. When I first started walking, Joe had come to live with me, and we'll maybe share our
yeah,
story on
yeah,
another podcast. But we were both really sick, and I couldn't make it around the block all the time. Or if I came home walking just around Publix once, be like, bro, that's all I can do. I'd come
yeah,
sit on the couch and be winded for 30 minutes.
yeah.
I remember one time specifically, he was dumping water on my head because I thought I
Yeah.
was going to pass out. And
It was also
uh,
really hot out, but yeah,
it was hot. And we eventually adapted to that and began to walk in the heat. But here's the thing, guys, is when we stop moving our body, when we lay in bed and we're on the couch all day and we're grabbing our phones and we're sitting here doom scrolling for hours, we are literally contributing to our illness. And not
mm,
only are we contributing to our illness, we're making it so much worse. You have to get up and move. Oh, well, you don't know about my POTS. Dude, I literally just told you that I was in a wheelchair. Like, you can go search the story and find
yeah,
it. Ultimately, like, you've got to move your body. You cannot heal without
yeah,
moving. You're not getting nutrients and oxygen and blood to your organs and stuff by not moving. You've got to get your heart pumping. You've got to get your lungs expanding and going back. Like, and this is part of healing. So as you
yeah,
begin to move, slowly, and we talk about this. Well, let me start. When a lot of us get sick, we stop moving because we don't feel good. We're in pain. We feel lightheaded and dizzy. As long as you've been cleared for your doctor to just walk, like, we're not saying go out and run a marathon, but just begin to walk
yeah,
daily. and build upon it. It doesn't have to be a mile right away, but slowly start amping it up to where you're walking a mile in the morning and you're walking a mile at
Yeah.
night. Your body absolutely needs that to heal, and you're
Mhm.
slowly beginning to strengthen. And what we've seen, and in our own cases, is a lot of my POTS started getting better when I began moving more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that, and the knowledge of where POTS comes from, we don't really know, but I do believe that as a society, we've stopped moving. And I don't know if this is, like I said, I'm not claiming to have the answer on this, but I know for me that as I slowly went back into it and progressed, that my POTS started to get better. Now I still get
Mhm.
lightheaded, dizzy all the time, and I went through the whole passing out thing back in the day. But I know now there's not a day that I don't skip my morning walk and my night walk,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
walking all throughout the day. The stagnant energy is literally going to keep you exactly where you're at. And we go a
Yeah.
little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, we do things like qigong and yoga, and then now
Yeah,
we're back in the gym, working
yeah,
out. But at
exactly.
least walking is start of it. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the qigong and the movements like that. It slowly starts to build muscle to where you slowly get back into the
yeah,
gym and you're on a treadmill for 3 minutes, and 3 minutes turns to 5 minutes. And we don't push. We
yeah,
we we listen to our body, but we begin to kind of build on that. And what we've done, and this is a cumulative. Okay, now we've changed our diet to a low inflammatory diet. We began to replace our fear with gratitude, and we begin to kind of set the framework for what we want our life to look like as we begin to heal, and we
yeah,
pursue that. We get out of the house, we begin doing things, we begin dreaming again. We don't just let our life be inundated with illness, because if
yeah,
that's all
yeah,
you talk about, think about, read, you're going to be that. There's a scripture says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So if you constantly think that you're going to be sick, you're going to absolutely be sick.
yeah.
I'm not saying if you think you're going to be healthy, you're going to be healthy, but you're definitely going to feel better. So
There's a correlation with it too. See,
absolutely.
but
And guys, the science is just astounding behind all of this. Like if I were to pull Chat GPT up right now and ask it, what are some things that I can do to help my chronic illness get better? It's going to mention every single thing that we've talked about. And
yeah,
when these are all done in correlation, inconsistency with nervous system regulation, you really start to see your life come back. And the thing is we're not going to sit and tell you, like, all these other are you going to get completely better? We don't know, but I can tell you that you can begin living your life and enjoying days again. And I
yeah,
think for a lot of us, that's just as important. Do some people get 60%, 70%, 80%? We don't know. And for some people, it could be 6 months. For some, it could be a year. For some, I'm 2 years in this. I'm not completely better, but I'm better than where I was at. And where I was at when me and him first met is I didn't want
yeah.
to be here
Night
anymore.
and day difference between both of
Yeah,
us, like how sick we were.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, in closing, Joe, did you have anything else that you felt? Uh,
No, no. I just, we can dive more into this because each sort of thing that we talked about can be its own episode here. But in the sake of not overwhelming people, I think this is a good place to kind of just set the foundation for everything. The last part I think is important to mention is it's hard to do this. I know we talked about that, and it's hard to do it alone. Some people need community, some people need support. This is where Josh and I sort of came together when I had gotten COVID and relapsed, and we helped one another heal, and then we started our healing boot camp, which is constantly going on. This is where the community, and actually it's our mind body boot camp. We changed the name. This is where we teach people the tools to how to heal, but it's also done in a community setting where people are helping one another. It's me and Josh helping people, but also people in there, like friends, family, helping one another heal and get better. And it's important to have that sort of community support. I think it's hard to do alone. This work, it sounds simple. It sounds real simple, like just diet, nervous system work, moving. But when you start to implement it and you're going against your body, which is telling you, I just want to lay down and eat the Snickers bar and relax, and like it's good to have support. It's good to have support with other people that are doing the exact same thing, so that you're not alone and you see people getting better. So that's the only thing I want to add there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's different because we worked hard on cultivating this community to be a place where people are absolutely healing, and
Yeah.
they are. So many people have gotten their lives back, And there's people in all different parts of the journey. So if you're interested in that, all of our social medias are just the Healing Dudes. Our one that
Yeah.
we're most responsible on is our Instagram. I would encourage you guys to check that out. If you're out there and you're watching this and you've been struggling for a long time and you just don't know where answers, keep hope alive. Things
Yeah.
can absolutely get better, and that's not to say that every day is going to be great. I had a being real, I had a conversation with Joe this morning where I was struggling, and I'm in a better place because I got up and I did the work that I know we needed to do to get better. And getting this is what pisses people off, and I love it. Getting better is going to require you guys doing the work. We made a journal a while ago simply called Do the Work. And you
Yeah.
guys can find this on Amazon. You just type in the Healing Dudes on Amazon or Do the Work and it'll come up. But we want to let you guys know that you're not too far gone, that there's no case out there that, you're the anomaly or,
Mhm.
you're a rarity, that you can absolutely get better, that your body can heal, and there is always hope. And we're not just talking about doing our program. We want you guys to know there's enough
Yeah.
information out there that if you
Yeah.
want to switch it and do it yourself, that it's there. It's not complex. It does take time, but we are here for you guys if you need support. And it's been great talking. I'm not even going to do all that because I don't know how we're ending this. But
Yeah. Have a good one, guys.
yeah, yeah.